One of the questions that I get asked the most is, what is the difference between mixing and mastering? They're two very different things, and I'm going to tell you what they are. So, obviously, the recording process is made up of a few different levels, a few different steps to get to the final product, right? First one, going to be writing a song. Second one's going to be recording that song. Then you have to mix the song. And then lastly, you have to master the song, okay? So those are the basic 4 steps from creation to the end. That's very, abbreviated version, but those are the 4 steps, okay? So let's talk about mixing. Here's a project of mine that was recorded on GarageBand. It is made up of vocal parts, guitar parts, there's a bass part, keyboard parts, some drums, a bunch of backup vocals, all that kind of stuff, okay? So here I am, and for example, these are all different vocals. In the mixing stage, this is where we are balancing all of the different volume levels of, for example, the vocals here. Also, we're gonna be dealing with the volume levels of the bass and the drums and all of the different instruments and components that make up the individual channels here. So that basically is the first step for most people, getting the volume to be balanced properly. Now, everybody's process is going to be a little different about if they're doing volume first or if they're doing panning controls first, but also you're going to be doing a lot of EQing in the mix, right? For example, this is what I use to mix vocals with. And so these are the EQs, and these are the moments where I'm bringing out the high end or the low end of each vocal track, making it sound as good as possible. We're also adding compression, which is a tool used to bring down peaks and bring up low levels. It's sort of an interesting device. If you don't know anything about it, well, you're on the right channel. You can watch all that kind of stuff here on Garageband and Beyond. So these are the kinds of things that are done during mixing, okay? Also, you could add effects like reverb or delay, all these different kinds of things, okay? This is all the bulk of the work. Really, mixing is probably the part of it that takes the longest, maybe sometimes recording, depends on your process. But anyway, mixing is that. Just fine-tuning all of the tracks individually, okay? Now, what comes after mixing? Mastering. And that is, we're gonna have to speak in very general terms here, but it's sort of like the icing on the cake. It's the glossy finish on the fancy car. You know what I'm talking about? So that's the moment. So after you're finished creating this mix of the song, for me, we're gonna look at this track that I was showing you before. So this is what I use to master songs for myself or for clients. Don't forget, I do mix and master songs for people. But basically what I'm doing here is I have a virtual mixer where this is helping me deal with the signal coming out of GarageBand before it gets into the plugins that I use for mastering. This is a preamp that I drop in for the tone of it. It's a nice thing. This is the compressor, and these are the EQs over to the right, as you can see. So this stage, mastering, everything that you do in the mastering stage is going to affect the entire mix of the song, right? Whereas previously, when you're mixing the song, you have control over those sounds individually. Mastering, you do not. It is one big lump that you're dealing with. Generally, you're trying to make it a little bit brighter, or it depends on the mix what you're trying to do with it. But, make sure that the overall thing sounds good as you turn it up to meet sort of, CD levels or iTunes levels or whatever platform you're streaming your music on. There are different methods and different numbers that you should be concerned with. So that's one of the next things we're going to talk about, making your song louder during that mastering process. So this is the final stage of the mastering stuff that I use from Slate Digital. So there is another compressor here that if you need to use it, you can use it. It's something I use very sparingly. And then down here, this is where I'm actually pushing the gain up. This is a very, very nice way to master your songs if you are trying to do it by yourself. This particular one is very simple to use, and it's very, very dynamic. So that's something you should be looking for out of masters, especially if your songs are a little more delicate or, like acoustic kinds of things. Don't be overly concerned with loudness all the time. I think a lot of people get confused that it's gotta be super loud to sound good. As you push your songs to get louder and louder and louder, you lose the dynamic range, meaning that the soft moments are not gonna be nearly as soft. when the loud moments come. There's not going to be as much contrast, right? That's just an example of one way you can think of that. You should just be aware of that kind of stuff when you're mastering or looking for masters or listening to your masters. Just be aware that they don't always need to be crazy loud. Loudness is not always good, okay? You will want to, make sure that it's not too low, of course, but you don't want it to be slamming crazy loud unless that's exactly what you want. Anyway, I hope that answers a bunch of the questions revolving around mixing and mastering. I hope that's it. All right, so you guys have an awesome day. Thank you for watching. Please hit that free subscribe button. It really does help my channel. I know everybody here on YouTube is always asking, but that's because it really helps us. So please hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, thanks. Peace and love.